everyone. Good evening. If you're so inclined, I'd love to see your faces, but I know it's always weird just to like be one of the only ones with your camera on, but I'd love to see you if you're willing and able to do so. So as Jay said, my name is Jenny Ruiz and I am the director. Hi, Sherry. I am the director of the Office of Success Coaching here at Cal State San Marcos. I have been here at CSUSM since 2006, so I just started my 17th academic year here. I have had a variety of positions, including in new student orientation and in housing and residential education. And also just most recently, I worked as Associate Dean of Students for a number of years. And then this past March, I had the extreme pleasure and privilege to be able to take over the position that I'm in now with the Office of Success Coaching. So, and what's fun is I've actually known Jay since he was a student. So it's been really kind of cool to see him. I know we have lots of fun stories. So, and when your student graduates, because they're going to graduate, Jay and I will be there making sure that they're lined up nice and orderly on their commencement day. So a little bit about me. I'm from San Diego, born and raised. I'm from the Mira Mesa area. And I went to Sonoma State for my undergrad. So I moved up north to get a degree in sociology, and I was super involved in college. I had to work primarily. So I was primarily funded by financial aid. I had to pretty much work every semester just to pay for living expenses and whatnot. And I got involved in a variety of areas, including as an orientation team leader. Again, I worked on campus in various areas. And then I also served in like a peer mentor role for our freshman seminar class. If your student is enrolled in a class called GEL 101, it's the equivalent to GEL 101 at Sonoma State. So I kind of got that experience of having really a great and robust college experience and had a chance to meet some great mentors and realized later that I said, oh, this could be a job and working on a college campus. And so it really is a dream. So not always easy and perfect, but it's always great to work with our students. And then I moved back down to San Diego and I got my master's in counseling with a specialization in college student development from the University of San Diego. And then did a little stint in New York as a residence hall director, lived on campus, lived in building with students, and that was quite the learning experience. And then I moved back and have been here since 2006. So I am going to be talking to you all this evening about the Office of Success Coaching. So what we do, how our office can help, but I'm also going to kind of frame some things into what your students may be experiencing these first couple of weeks of school, because the research shows that kind of the first 6 weeks is really the pivotal time in a student's experience in college, and just kind of want to give you a reminder and an idea of what they may be experiencing. And nothing is so like, a lot of it you probably wouldn't be surprised about, but maybe it'll affirm and maybe validate some things that you're seeing and hearing and observing from your student. And then I'll go over what we are doing in our office to help with this and to help them transition. And then I'm going to give you a little snippet. We actually presented at orientation this summer. So every first year orientation session, we presented a session called College 101. So I'm going to give you an idea of what we talked with your students about. So you can also have that information and can help to leverage and amplify the messages that we are providing to our students. Okay. So this is College 101 for families. So okay, so a few things. So what am I going to talk about? Like I mentioned, the first 6 weeks, so what do they need? What are some of the really kind of key things that they're experiencing, what they're concerned about? What are they coming up against? Again, the Office of Success Coaching, what we do, how we do it, the pillars of success that we have for students, and then wrapping that all up and how can you support as family members moving forward with all the things I'm going to be sharing. So first, I wanted to ask how you all are doing. So if you have a first year student, which I'm gonna presume majority likely do. If you don't, that's totally fine. We want to hear from you as well. But I want you to put in the chat right now, how are you doing? So we are 2.5 weeks into the first semester. I invite you to share whether it's a statement, a word, whatever it may be. How are you doing these first 2.5 weeks and kind of with your students' experience at CSUSM? So drop it into the chat. I'd love to see. Better than you were the first week. That's great, Janine. I hope so. Cautiously optimistic. Okay. So far, so good. Surprisingly good. Pleasantly surprised. Missing my baby. Oh, yeah. Lack of new friends for daughter. Yeah. Bit concerned. Totally makes sense. Relieved. Okay. So I'm seeing kind of the gamut here. Okay. So adjusting, lots of emotions, painting all spare bedrooms. Whatever works, Lisa, do your thing. Still adjusting. This is all great. So hopefully if you're looking in this chat, you can see a little bit of yourself there and just realize if you feel like you're on your own, you can get a little bit of validation and be like, okay, I'm not the only one feeling this way. But yeah, missing your student, all of that. Okay. And Vicki, I'll tell you, so many students are dealing with just kind of finding their people and their friends and just a lot of emotion. And so I just want to, again, I want to affirm and validate kind of how everybody is feeling. So, and it may all change tomorrow. As we know, things move quickly. It could be different next week. So we know it's fluctuating, but we are here to help. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so I want to give you kind of a little idea of what are some of the things that your students are experiencing the first 6 weeks of college. This is a lot. This is a massive transition. So, and as I'm kind of going through, we are in full swing with student meetings. And so I've already met with about 25 of the students on my caseload. So all first year students. So I'm going to probably throw in some of the kind of patterns and trends I'm seeing with them when I'm meeting with them to kind of give you an idea. So first and foremost, academic transition. One of the funniest things, the first day of school, I had a student walk into our office and we kind of are in a weird location. So it takes a little bit of time for them to find us. But the student walked in and I said, how are you doing? And he just says to me, what did he say? He's like, college, man. This like what is this about? Like college is something else. Like that is that's what he said. This is something else. And I just had him talk to me. He said it's the workload, trying to find the classroom, trying to figure out when to eat, when to get up, when to go to sleep, just all those things. And then also balancing in their social life. So academic transition, I've had the gamut of students saying a lot of this is a review, and all the way to students saying this is significantly more challenging than I thought it was going to be. So we have seen the spectrum, right? Social adjustment, trying to find people, trying to find their community, that independence and responsibility, learning to balance their priorities, adjusting just to a new routine. It's figuring out each time we have a new routine, like coming up with what that pattern is and feeling secure in it. Time away from family and support systems. So if your students are living away from you, which it seems like some of them are, they're experiencing that difficulty of being away from their support systems. General time management, financial stress. I had a student earlier be like, I'm broke, I just don't know what to do. And so talking through some options of where they can find some resources. The Cougar Pantry is right down the hall from our office. So if they need food, that's a resource. But helping them to kind of have those dollars stretch a little bit more. Their health and wellness, so sleeping, eating appropriately, just taking care of their health, right? Navigating campus life, and adjusting new routine, clearly I copy and pasted, but that's still very, very important. And then lastly, cultural and diversity adjustments. They're meeting students from all over, right? They're meeting students from all over the San Diego area, California, the country, the world. And so with that can be exciting, but with that can also bring some levels of discomfort and just figuring out how to navigate all those changes. So they're dealing with a few things, right? Few things the first 6 weeks. Does anybody want to drop in the chat something that maybe you like, just a quick bullet point that maybe isn't included here that you've kind of seen that your student has been experiencing? I probably covered most of it, but roommate challenges. Oh yes. Daughter got sacked the second day. I think we're seeing the first, your student lives in housing. I have a sense we're seeing the first wave of sickness because I've already talked to a few students who are sick and I'm like, oh, here it is. And you look at your watch and you're like, yep, it's about that time. Just kind of that first wave of stuff coming through. Loving being, yes, roommate not getting involved. Mine was out for a week. COVID second day. See? Yep. Yes, yes, yes. Different ways of turning in homework. Yeah, different platforms, kind of getting used to all the different preferences that faculty have. Definitely. Thank you all for sharing that. So a little bit about our office. So I oversee the Office of Success Coaching. This program supports first-year students during their first year at Cal State San Marcos. So first-year students out of high school. We support students who are not in a specialized program. So the specialized programs that we cover that we don't work with are listed here. So if your student is in EOP, our TRIO student support services, is part of ACE Scholars Camp, or is a student athlete or international student, they do not get a coach. The reason for that is within those programs, they already have some very dedicated retention counselors, so they have that support built in already. And so we really grab the rest of the students, which is really the majority. It's about 2,500 first-year students that we're supporting. Okay. I do see some questions. I'll get to that in a little bit. Jackie, I have some specifics. I can go ahead and share some resources for you. Okay, so that's who we serve. I have about 9 coaches, and we divvy the caseloads up by that. And yeah, we're working with that specific population. So what do we do? So this picture is actually from, we had a program the first week of the semester in North Commons, and it was a meet and greet. We had over 100 students actually come through, get a chance to meet their coaches, and really collaborating with housing. We're going to be collaborating with the other buildings the rest of the semester or rest of the year. But also these programs are open to students who don't live in housing as well and are advertised as such. But what do? We want to help them just to establish a sense of belonging on the campus. We want to be kind of that person that they can feel safe and that they can trust to kind of talk through, come to you with questions, and that sort of thing. It was funny this morning. I had a meeting with the student at the end. She's like, "Can I give you a hug? You're like my mom." And I'm like, "You're welcome. Whatever I can do to help you." But like really having that safe and trustworthy environment so they know they can come to you and ask questions. We want them to have an increased awareness of what they're interested in, what their abilities are, so we can find kind of their place on campus. Every meeting we're meeting with, we're having kind of our needs assessment initial meetings right now. We are asking the students what their goals are. I have asked a student, what is one academic goal and what is one personal goal you have? And kind of having them think about that. And some goals have ranged from, I just want to go to all of my classes this semester, to I had one this morning who said, I want to get all A's. All the way to just personal goals of I want to exercise a few days a week. I want to make sure I'm getting this much sleep. I had a student today, I want to run 5 miles without stopping. So it kind of ranges, right? So everything is different. We want to help them to have conversations if anything has hindered their goal achievement and success, right? We'll probably start seeing if there's some bumps in the road, probably in a couple of weeks, say if they get sick, they miss class, or there's some confusion with the classroom or whatnot. And so we'll have those conversations and then really explore who they are and their options and what they can do that can result in that goal achievement and success. But really, like Esther wrote, yes, I connected a student with how to find a job on campus. So we really kind of talk through all of those types of things in these meetings and conversations. So how do we do it? So primarily we have one-on-one meetings. So we have been meeting with students since the week before the semester began. We've been in communication with them. So we are meeting with them one-on-one and having kind of that initial, like I said, needs assessment conversation, getting to know who they are, where are they from, what are they into, who is their support network, and kind of talking through what are some primary needs and concerns and what they want to get involved in. So it's this really kind of holistic kind of assessment of what and learning about the student. We're offering some collaborative workshops, so I'll give a little bit more information about that later. We're providing some community building opportunities. We are partnering with GEL, which is the General Ed Lifelong Learning class that majority of first-year students take, but each coach is assigned to a certain number of GEL sections, and they're working with those respective instructors in order to build that collaboration and that community and visibility. So the first week of the semester, coaches went into every single GEL course and introduced themselves and let the students know how to make an appointment. For students who are not enrolled in GEL, we're still doing a lot of communication and outreach, so they are aware of what is available to them. We provide enrollment support in collaboration with advising. We do resource connection and referrals, and then we provide frequent and timely communication. So for instance, I hold a kind of a smaller caseload than my team, but the caseload that I have, I'm emailing them every Monday with kind of a general, like, here's what's going on during this week. Here are some timely resources and reminders and information. And in each one of them, I ask them to kind of send back something. So like this week I put, send back an emoji of how you're feeling. And some of the emojis I've gotten, I had like the brain explosion one earlier, and I'm like, you good? Do you need anything? So asking them to kind of send us some information back so we're interacting. So first year student, Jackie, that is, so first year students right out of high school. So they just graduated from high school in May or June of this past year. That's how, so freshmen. Okay. So kind of going into next, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we share with them at orientation. But we do email them on their school email. We send them messages on Microsoft Teams. Oh, Jackie, well, you can hang out if you'd like. Okay. And if a student does not make an appointment to meet you but needs help, we will try our best to provide and send resources. But one thing that you can hopefully help them to do is encourage them to make an appointment or contact us. Even if a student does not make an appointment, we will still be in contact with them and communicating, but there is some level of engagement that is required of the student in order to make some efforts to communicate with us. So here are some of the things that we talked about at orientation that all of your students heard if they went to first year orientation this summer. So we address some what we think are really pillars of success for our newest students. And this is really based on the conversations our success coaches have with students that we kind of narrowed down, that the three kind of key pieces that we want to ensure our students have some confidence in and can ensure that they're, you know, taken care of every day to be successful. So the first one in pillar of success is that sense of belonging. So some folks were talking about, making friends, making those connections. This is one thing that is so incredibly important for first year students and just students in general, is for them to find a sense of belonging at Cal State San Marcos. It could be finding a job on campus. It could be meeting with us. It could be joining a club, just going to events, but feeling that they have some sort of connection to something involved with the campus in some way. What this does, it increases academic success, emotional well-being. It increases their personal growth, social integration. It exposes them to different people. And research shows the more involved and more connected a student is to their college campus, they're more likely to be retained and they're more likely to graduate. So how do we do this? We've had weeks of welcome the first couple of weeks. We've been bombarding them with information of events to go to, but really kind of sharing with them programs that are going on and different opportunities for them to kind of find what their niche is, right? If they don't want to necessarily go to like a big, huge campus-wide event, but would rather go to like a smaller kind of workshop or like to do crafts with a smaller group of people, all of those things are offered on campus. It's just up to them for what they want to go to. As I mentioned, on-campus employment is massive, and then connecting with your success coach or their program advisor if they're in a specialized program. Another pillar is time management. So what we're finding is that there's students who have a really good method, and that they've done really well, and they have a system that works with the calendar, an online calendar, a planner, or whatnot. And there are some students who are like, I have no clue what to use. So we want to work with students on how to prioritize their schedules, knowing how they're spending their time, kind of identifying what their method is to organize their time, and sticking to that schedule and really setting boundaries. So some of the things we have some examples on is I walked a couple of students through how to use an Outlook calendar. So how to use the platforms that are available to them as students that are free to them. It's included for them as students, or just encouraging them to simply print out all of their core syllabi and get some nice colored pens and get a planner and write everything they have due for the entire semester and color code by class. So it kind of depends on how folks do it, but that's kind of what we're working with them on these first couple of weeks, is to identify what method they're using to organize their time. I had a student last week who said, I have a planner, I'm just figuring out when would be a good time to use it. And I looked at him, he's like, it's probably a good time to use it now. I said, you answered my question for me. And I'm like, why wait? You're not going to wake up one day and say, okay, today is the day I'm going to use my planner, because by then you might be a little bit too late. So we have a syllabus calendar that we can share with them and kind of walk through some different tools that way. And then we also encourage a 1-day buffer rule. I always encourage students to almost pretend an assignment is due 1 day before it actually is, because it's almost like tricking yourself. So say I'm having a student go on and do their Outlook calendar. I'm telling them, go ahead and put in that your paper is due the day before, right? And then that way you get it done, and then you're kind of surprised, like, oh yeah, I had 1 extra day. So it's just building in that buffer so they're not going right up into it. Oh yeah, you can color code classes, you can add assignments, so that you can do so much. You can attach what the assignments are, so they can open up the calendar invite or calendar thing and see what the assignment is. But yeah, I spent about an hour with a student walking them through this last week, and she literally said to me, you just changed my life. And I said, you're welcome. So all these things that they may not know exist, I presented to a GEL class night about the same thing. So it's making sure that they have a system, because them just using their brains, even though they're very young, it's at some point when it gets overwhelming, when they start getting tired, they're going to start forgetting what they have to do. And then the last thing is helping them to build self-efficacy through communication. So self-efficacy really meaning that they have worked hard to get here. They have the tools they need to be successful. The self-efficacy piece is them believing and acting as though they have those tools and with that confidence. So we encourage students to play an active role in their education. They are not here to be a passive participant. We want them to be active. We want them to understand their rights as a student, stay informed. They need to check their email. And that's the other thing we've told them, you know, the campus sends a lot of emails. So how do we help them to kind of prioritize? I've shown, again, students how to kind of organize their email by adding folders and all of that based on class, to put ones for GEL or math or whatnot, and different strategies that way. We want them to connect with their professors. You know, we also ask in the meetings and say, what's your comfort level in speaking to your faculty if you are confused? And again, the spectrum. You have students who are like, I have no problem. And then you have the students who are like, that completely freaks me out. And then we kind of unpack it. We help students if they want to send a message to their faculty. Let us help you kind of draft it and then build that confidence of knowing kind of how to send that in the future. We want them to connect with student support resources and really to speak up and share their needs. What we don't want students to do is suffer in silence. If they are having a challenge and they just don't know where to go and like they're walking around and don't know who to go to for help, assuring them that we could be those people, and being kind of that constant and consistent resource and connection with them throughout the first year. Okay. So how can you help? So there's a lot of things you all can do. Having open communication with your student. What that means is just your communication may look different with your student now, depending on if you were in touch with them more often than before. Just being open, being accessible, being approachable. Whether you need to encourage them to schedule a FaceTime date with you once a week, so at least you have that on the calendar, do that, but just be open. And I have a 7-year-old, so not equating 7-year-olds to college students by any means, but me trying to get information from him about how his day at school was, I find myself kind of bombarding him with questions. And then he kind of gets overwhelmed. So in that sense, when you're talking to your student, trying our best to not bombard with questions and just kind of having it be open and let them share. Providing that emotional support. You may not understand what they're going through, but just being that open ear and that support for them. Providing that space. And so it's always good to ask if they're coming to you saying, do you want me to give you advice right now, or do you want me just to listen? And providing that choice and space for them. Staying connected, yet respecting that independence, whatever that looks like for your relationship and your family. So where that comes in is with the open communication piece of, I want to respect your independence, but I also need to know that you're alive and well, right? And so having these, kind of those expectations. So whether that means you have that scheduled phone call, if you text a code word, it's like, you need to get back to me, and that sort of thing. But that may also mean that you're okay with them not responding right away because maybe they're in class or doing some other things, and providing that space. We want you to encourage involvement. So involvement doesn't necessarily mean you're president of a student organization right away. It means going to a meeting. It means going to an event. It could mean just walking into one of our student life centers on campus. It's just finding some outside the classroom involvement in some way for them to build that community. And really helping them with problem solving skills. So I had a student today, they're so sweet. I had a student earlier, I needed to change my meeting time with him. And I had been emailing him, I had been messaging on Microsoft Teams, no response, right? I also called him, but guess what? His voicemail was not set up. So I had no way to get a hold of him. the student shows up for the meeting, but not at the time that I needed him to be. I needed him to come a little bit later. And he said to me, I saw your email. I just didn't respond, or I saw your message and I had a question and I was just confused. And so I'm like, why didn't you just email me for clarification? He's like, I could have done that. So sometimes it's just like, what is the next step? If you don't know where to go, calling and asking. If something is going on that you're like, I need this to be kind of solved, like having that critical thinking and being able to kind of walk through difficult situations. For the most part, if a student brings a concern to you about their classes, roommates, whatnot, there is some appropriate process or pathway to resolve that question or concern. Okay. So we want to encourage the student to take that path. If a student comes to you and says, I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z, that's what we can be here for as well. Connect them with us, and we can kind of be a sounding board to figure out how to address that. And I think the biggest ones, help them to use their voice and advocate for themselves, and then celebrate their successes. They're still going to want to share with you what they're doing well. And even if it is the smallest thing, celebrate those successes, because you know, it's going to be more challenging. It's going to be harder while they're here. And so celebrating those little successes is really important. And I've shared with my students, tell me when you get a good grade on an exam, or you get a better grade than you thought you were going to. Come show me your grade on a paper. I'm like, I'll give you a sticker. And it's like, yay. So it's just providing that positive reinforcement is also helpful. And these are all things you all know. You're veteran parents, you know. Okay, so success coaching, a little bit about what's been going on and what is ahead. So like I mentioned, student meetings are in full swing. We've already had a couple of hundred student meetings so far. So meeting with students one-on-one, they can schedule meetings with us using our bookings link online. If they don't know how to schedule a meeting, which I will tell you, we've made it very difficult for them to not know who their coach is and not know how to schedule. But if they don't, they could always just message our email address or Google us on the website and find us that way, and we'll connect them with their success coach. So those meetings are in full swing. So we're having our initial meetings, and I've already started scheduling my follow-up meetings with students in October. We did a meet and greet event, like I mentioned. We visited all GEL classes. We have a College 101 2.0 workshop series. So we did a session last week on time management in North Commons, and we're doing one tomorrow evening with a panel of faculty, a panel of CSUSM faculty, to kind of share directly with students, like, what does success look like? How does a faculty member want a student to approach you if you're having any challenges? So kind of just to break down some myths and really make sure that students know that faculty are here to, you know, help them be successful and are also part of that that network of support. In the vein of building community, we are once a month going to have something called Game On in our office space, and we're going to have board games, we're going to have snacks, just inviting students to come and hang out and de-stress, with the goal of meeting other students, connecting with coaches, and just being in that space, and just kind of, you know, playing for a little bit. And then we're just connecting with students via email, their Microsoft Teams, and via walk-in. So we're trying to make ourselves as accessible as possible for students to find us. Even if they can't or don't want to meet with us right now, I've had students even email me a simple question, and I've been able to walk them through it and be able to address their question that way. Okay. So Verona, I'll tell you why. So as far as how to follow us, here is our Instagram, our TikTok, and our LinkedIn, and this is our email as well as our virtual front desk. So this is how you can contact us as well, but I encourage you to follow us on social media, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with things that are going on. If you have questions, you can email us at success@csusm.edu. And your students have all of this information, and encourage them to follow and also contact us this way as well. Okay. That is my presentation. I see that some folks have some questions. How do you want to do this, Jay?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Jenny, for your thorough presentation. I'm going to turn off the recording so that we can do the Q&A session, so that we can address some of those questions that came in.